it's clear that we have people joining in from all across India, and no matter where we are, it's clear that there's one thing that connects us all. We're all road users, whether you drive, whether you ride a scooter or simply cross the street. Road safety shapes our daily lives. But here's the unfortunate reality: every year, road crashes unleash staggering losses on India, both economic and, far more importantly, human. And at Crashfree India, we're dedicated to reversing this crisis. Our mission is ambitious: to help India achieve zero road fatalities by 2040. We work across policy, infrastructure, technology, and community engagement because we believe safer mobility is possible for everyone and that these tragedies are preventable. And that's exactly why I'd like to welcome you all to our second ever webinar as part of our National Road Safety Webinar series. Um, as my colleague Ritik is screen sharing and showing you, you can always rewatch our first ever webinar, which was on the cashless treatment scheme that was recently launched. Um, so you can also check out our blog on that and our other blogs with more insights on road safety. So as I mentioned, we work across multiple verticals: policy, infrastructure, tech, and community engagement. So it's very clear that road safety is a vast challenge. But one group of road users that is often overlooked is delivery riders. And that brings us to today's topic: um, last mile first priority, policy perspectives on delivery rider safety. So millions of these riders are on our roads every day, carrying food, groceries, and packages, often under immense time pressure. Their safety is not just their issue, but it affects us all as fellow road users. So before we dive into our discussion, I wanted to take a moment to understand how big we all think this challenge is, and we've prepared some interesting polls for you, which I believe we can start screen sharing. Just going to share a link for you all to join. And I hope everybody can access the link shared. Yes. So in case anyone's on their PC, they can feel free to scan the QR code. Otherwise, we've dropped the link in the chat. Would love to know how often you guys order from quick commerce applications. Okay, more than 15. We have two extremes here. Uh, for people typing in the chat, could you please use the Mentimeter link that's been shared? I'll just reshare it again. Okay. Seems like not everybody's doing it daily. So, hoping more people will use the polls, but I believe we can move on to the next question. What all do you order via these quick commerce platforms? Not a lot of people ordering medicine. Interesting. For those who have just currently joined, we're trying to understand how often everybody orders, what they order, their ordering patterns. Okay. Next question, please. Okay. Lots of people having late night deliveries. Thank you, Mr. Sanjay, for your input. We'll definitely allow for that in our next few polls. If there are multiple responses, people can also type in the chat. A lot more people ordering in the evening and late night. So next question, please. So this is a trickier question. Might be more of a head scratcher. How many kilometers do you think delivery riders cover in a day? Okay. Um, Seems a lot more people are accurate actually. You might be amazed to know that delivery riders often travel far more than we imagine, more than 60, but sometimes even more than 100 kilometers in a single day. And no matter the weather or road conditions, they rarely stop. They're constantly working to keep things moving for us. And just to answer the first question we'd asked, how often do you something that's interesting concerning the first question, how often we order? On based on market data from March 2025, India's top quick commerce platforms actually handled a combined total of almost 4.45 million orders daily, which translates to approximately 29 to 31 million orders per week. So I think that leads us to our final question for today. Well, today's polls. I'm curious how many of us think rider safety should be discussed as a part of overall road safety policy. Uh, Seems responses are hidden. Uh, yes. Um, Very glad to hear this overwhelming response that yes, obviously it should be part of road safety policy, and that's the exact reason we're here today. Rider safety is urgent, and through this session, we look at what can be done to protect them better. Um, I think rain or heat, traffic or time pressure, riders are constantly on the move. And when accidents happen, it's not just the rider who suffers, but the entire family feels the impact. When we safeguard these riders, we safeguard our roads for all. So if they can go the extra mile for us, the last mile for us, isn't it time we also put them on our first priority? So without further ado, Ritvik, if you can stop screen sharing, please. Thank you. Um, I'd like to introduce our two speakers for today's webinar. Mr. Rohan Toshniwal is an architect and urban planner. He has over 15 years of experience in mobility as a consultant and academician, and he is the director founder of Bodhika Advisors LLP, focused on mobility, energy, and environment with sustainability at its core. Roshan has worked on several mobility policy frameworks, and he's also contributed to road design manuals and advocacy measures to make road safety a priority for all. Roshan himself, as mentioned on our poster, is a victim of a car crash. And so it's especially inspiring that he's overcome that. As he was telling us before, he's an avid marathon runner and a public transport user. So glad to have him here today. And our
Thank you,
other,
Anupam.
thank you. And our other speaker here is Mr. Prakash Gupta. So Prakash Gupta is a seasoned public policy professional with expertise in the future work. He is currently serving as a senior manager of public policy at NASCOM. He's in the past, he's spearheaded research and advocacy on equitable work policies for gig and platform workers in India. And his career spanned impactful roles from Microsoft to managing large-scale research projects at think tanks and other civil society organizations. He holds a master's in public policy from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, NUS, and a master's of arts in development studies from IIT Guwahati. A recognized thought leader, he's authored key publications in the form of research reports and opinion articles on social protection in India's platform economy. So very apt speaker for today's session. So I'd like to start asking you all questions without any further ado. So Mr. Prakash, delivery riders are now one of the most visible groups on Indian roads, as we've established. So why do you think they should be seen as a central part of the road safety conversation?
Thanks, Astha. Thank you for having me in the panel discussion, and it's one of the pretty relevant discussions because this is a category of workers which many of us interact at least once a month, if not every day, but definitely we see them every day on our streets. So gig work, as you know, is growing in our country. It is providing livelihood to the millions of workers across the country. The specific category of gig workers is, as you mentioned, is delivery riders that majorly use two-wheeler vehicles for the delivery. And so for the workers or gig workers in general and other workers like rickshaw pullers, auto riders, and some of the other hardworking workers, are the cities serve as a place of work for them. So unfortunately, two-wheelers make a larger share or a bigger proportion of road accidents. For example, the proportion goes to up to 44% in some state in terms of the total road fatalities. So in my opinion, any measure that applies to the delivery workers also applies to a larger category of two-wheeler riders in India. So if you see some of the top reasons of these fatalities or accidents are speeding, non-compliance for helmets, poor road infrastructure, and influence of alcohol. Now, none of these factors are different for any particular uh, delivery rider in comparison to any other two-wheeler rider in the city. The only factor that differentiates the delivery workers is the time that they spend in cities in comparison to the other two-wheeler rider makes them more vulnerable or more at risk for an accident. So that's why they should be a part of the overall road safety conversation while keeping two-wheeler riders at the center.
Thank you for that insightful answer, Prakash. I think that leads me to my next question. It's clear that delivery rider safety and road safety are very interconnected. So, Roshan, I'd like to ask, what policy measures in road design and traffic enforcement can curb overspeeding and rule violations by delivery riders while still ensuring their safety and the safety of all road users at large?
So I don't know if delivery workers are overspeeding, but yeah, the vehicles around them could be overspeeding because a lot of them drive these slow moving vehicles. So overspeeding may or may not be the direct cause, especially in them. But yes, they are in a hurry, considering in the quick commerce segment, a lot of them have to deliver very quickly. Uh, so what's required in this context is them being aware about about road safety in general, and specifically what needs to be done to reduce their risks. When you talk about risk, uh, it's been, I mean, their prerogative is to reach. Otherwise, they may not get the necessary incentive. But the risk that they are at, considering you have fast moving traffic during early hours or late nights, it puts them in a much bigger category of risk. So then they need to understand that what is their right to do this. So I guess awareness is one of the key area that needs to be taught. Many of you, we've discussed this in the past also. Many of you would not even know, how to cross a road, because especially this generation, it's all said that, oh, it's given that you know how to cross a road. You are not realizing the quantum of traffic that is coming, what kind, I mean, for that matter, even after getting off the bus, how to cross a road, right? So, road safety education is something that is sort of needing to be bolstered further. It needs to be bolstered across the gamut. Not, I mean, like how you're taught moral science in school. Similar lines, you have to, you know, uh, make it a compulsion to learn about road safety at school levels. I'll stop at that. But yeah, I'm more on lines. They need to certainly think about methods to reduce uh, accidents for delivery workers by providing them the necessary education that will help in them not overspeeding or being careful while driving, uh, not crossing signals when it's red light, even if they can, because they have a slow moving vehicle. So those are some of the causes that also causes accidents. Yeah.
So, just a follow-up question then. It seems that you believe that it has more to do with road safety education than road design and traffic enforcement when it comes to the sort of violations that delivery riders either face or, they themselves do.
Well, I would say the infrastructure has always been forgiving in our case, in India especially. Our infrastructure still needs upgrade. It's not that all is great, and when it comes to the road marking or the way roads have been designed, but road safety education is important to safeguard yourself. That's prima facie an important task for them to get on. So that's why I mentioned this, that road safety education is very important, and it's not really being taught as much. Thanks.
Um, Interesting. So, I think there's also a behavioral component to this, as you highlighted, Roshan. And that's also why I'd like to ask Prakash, since he's worked so much with, the future of work and gig work specifically. How can regulations tackle the long hours and stress that some of these delivery riders face in a way that protects their safety as well as their income, given that that they may work far beyond their capacity for, these incentives? Prakash, you're on mute.
Yeah, so to resolve this, we need to possibly, and I sort of slightly differ um, from Roshan's opinion of like while awareness, well, he's being very pragmatic in terms like awareness is important, and like infrastructure has always been a very laggard thing in terms of the expansion of our cities. So but the policy is always forward looking. So I think there's no harm in sort of desiring, even if it has its own limitation in its practical application. So for example, to resolve this problem, we need to think about city as a workplace for many workers, not just for the delivery riders, but it would include like rickshaw pullers, auto rickshaw drivers, street vendors, and others. Now, when we think about workplace, we think about an employer and an employee. So that is not required in this conception. What you need is to design the city that is conducive for work. So the cities serve as workplace for all of them. Now, our cities are more designed as a space that include residential spaces, playgrounds, workplaces, that's offices and factories, and the roads and streets or footpaths serve as a means to connect these spaces, which may uh, could be isolated uh, from each other. But the idea is that the reality that for many roads and footpaths, they are also the urban spaces that function for as the workplaces or the residential spaces or even the playgrounds for many of the underserved communities. So for these people, we need to reimagine our cities as a workplace. Once we do that, when we think about workplace, what do we have? We have set a basic thing, a separate toilets for genders. Do we have separate enough public toilets? Drinking water? No. Uh, so workplaces are the spaces that give a sense of safety and comfort to people, irrespective of the gender. Now, gig work unfortunately has marginal participation of women. To enhance,
Sorry, Prakash, you're on mute again.
okay. Now to now, so gig work has marginal participation of women, like say 1 to 5% in maximum. What we think, unless you have like the care work, which is like urban company and um, similar kind of work, have to 30% women participation, but otherwise it's marginal. To enhance that, women would need to feel safe in the city for at least 10 hours among the 20 or 8 hours among the 24 hours. Is that real? Uh, to do that, we need to have enough CCTV cameras, high density areas, enough street lights in the places. So now in this context, if you put delivery riders as one of the categories of worker to reduce their fatigue and stress due to long working hours, we would need resting points. And some of the platform businesses have developed in Bangalore, Amazon very famously. In Chennai, Chennai Municipal Corporation had developed one, but they are like very, I mean, this is something is in making for these. So, so they should have basic facilities like toilet, access to drinking water, in addition to the facility to rest. While platform have a critical role in developing this, these resting point need space, land, something which is a scarce commodity in urban cities, and it is this place where government needs to contribute, and more collaboration two across the platform businesses and government is desired. So I think it needs an all hands approach, and a lot of it is beyond the control of platform businesses. While it doesn't mean that they don't have a role. So.
Thank you for the interesting insights. I have a follow-up question for both of you then. It seems while I asked Roshan about road design, Prakash had more of a take on how, you know, infrastructurally, from a basic standpoint, there's a lot that's missing for our delivery riders, not just in terms of road design, but how we view work, how we view what they will need as basic rights. So, just curious, beyond rules on paper, beyond what should be there, how can they be truly made aware of the rights and responsibilities they already have, and how they can access it better? And you mentioned, the aspect of shared responsibility. So how can platforms, governments, civil society, and us at large as consumers come together to actually ensure that this happens?
Is this question to me or Roshan?
Both.
Well, okay, I'll start, Roshan. I think, say, firstly, we as a consumer need to recognize that the person delivering goods to our doors is working hard and to meet his ends, and offering him a glass of water doesn't take a great effort. Secondly, a responsible consumer is also somebody who should be aware that the rating affects his work. And your urgency should not translate into a work pressure for the worker. So the same goes true for the platform businesses as well. Like, while platforms are competing or offering less delivery time, they should acknowledge that there could be several other means to achieve the same without burning out the delivery worker. Uh, does Driver should not be penalized in for late deliveries, and as it may inadvertently increase the incentive for speeding, out jumping traffic light. So there could be other measures to reduce delivery time, which is, for example, high density of dark stores. Uh, uh, the closer they are, the significantly reduced time for the delivery. The government should acknowledge that the road safety needs to be dealt with priority, acknowledging worker as element in the daily city life, not just behind the offices and factories.
I agree with you, Prakash. On the uh, moral responsibility that the companies have, one, to what you need is, because these guys are working for you, need to have a form of some form of social security. I think that is getting ensured right now, but it's still very hazy. We, how many of you know that the government of India has a policy that if you are a victim of road accident, if you found, uh, you know, if you're found on the road and you're given, and you go to a hospital, uh, you know, as a good Samaritan, if somebody admits you to a hospital, you have a free medical, not a free medical, but a medical expenses up to 1.5 lakh, which could be borne by the government, no questions being asked. But unfortunately, all of us still hesitate when it comes to somebody lying on the road who will take the responsibility when it comes to, uh, you know, paying for the medical expense. So these are some awareness on existing policy itself, that somewhere missing, that needs to be sort of, improved further. Unless that is done, in my opinion, it will take a long time before we acknowledge that, road accidents are a pain point, and we start building methods to solve for it. So I'll stop with that. But there are a lot more. There are so many regulations that have changed over a period of time, and are important methods to sort of bolster the way we foresee the future, especially for the gig workers. So yeah.
Thank you for that insightful answers. And thank you for bringing up the cashless treatment scheme, Roshan. That's one of the first topics we ever covered in our first ever webinar. If anybody would like to check that out and learn more about those schemes as well. But yeah, as both our speakers have mentioned, there's a lot of different sort of um, schemes, policies that have been launched by various governments, whether that be union or state. So something that's been recent, that's been making the headlines these days, is Karnataka for their gig work regulations. So I guess that leads me to my final question before I open the floor for questions from our participants as well. With Karnataka mandating platform contributions of 1% to 5% of payouts into a welfare fund, and Rajasthan relying on a varied cess plus grants, and with Karnataka's Labour Minister Santosh calling it a potential model for the entire country. How can these state level initiatives be scaled up into a national framework potentially? And what could be possible challenges that the government may face while scaling it up?
Okay, so that question needs a little bit of context setting before answering. So Karnataka has become the second state after Rajasthan to pass a law for security and welfare of gig workers. However, it is not uh, the first, and Rajasthan was not the first law. The first law in this direction was the Code on Social Security by central government in 2020 that passed the law on the same issue. And the law doesn't have anything, at least in approach, different from the Code on Social Security, although the nuances are a little different. But I don't think the scaling up is as challenging as the harmonization of the state laws and the central law is. And harmonization is important for a uniform legislation across the country. And at the moment, the state laws are not harmonizing with the central law, which is a big problem. But having said that, not going deep into these laws, I would like to mention that the social security has very little to do with the road accidents overall. I mean, the accidental insurance, for example, is a useful tool to mitigate expenses for related for the treatment of the worker after the incident of an accident has happened. But that's it. It plays no role in reducing the incidence of the accident itself. So, which I believe is a bigger issue to resolve in comparison to manage the incident of the accident. When it comes to road safety, the road needs to be safe or will be deemed to be safe if the accidents are less. So this would involve an all stakeholder approach. The reasons for the two-wheeler road accidents that I mentioned in the previous answer, I don't think the social security solves any of them. Like the four reasons of speeding, non-compliance of helmet, etc. The social security doesn't do a lot. But saying that it's not insignificant, uh, but it's also uh, it's also glass less than half full. So
Just wanted to add to what Prakash has mentioned. Uh, even implementation of this regulation. When we talk about welfare board today, uh, what's been irritating thing is that because there is no consistency across regulation in other states, right? It cannot really pass on. So if you've got a social security in Karnataka and tomorrow you move to another state for job, you know, or whatever, uh, you can't have a worker registered in so many states to sort of attain those welfare rights. So there has to be some method to do this one.
I just wanted to add a little bit, which is like half a minute. This entire effort of the welfare fund, I hope that the governments are able to implement it well. But the last time when it was, legislated, the experience was not um, great. Say for the construction workers, a similar kind of welfare fund is established in different states of India. Uh, it was started in, I think, mid 1990s, and uh, there are thousands of crores of unutilized fund. So it's not as difficult to have a fund and collect the fund as much as it's difficult to utilize it. And some of the state laws in its present form have a problem in there, hasn't thought it out clearly how they will utilize this.
Thank you both
Coming
for
back
your
to the crash question.
No, it's fine.
Right.
Please go ahead.
Coming back to the crash question, right? So now, if you have a universal regulation wherein you are allowed or permitted for up to 1.5 lakh, of your health insurance or rather accident insurance in some form, and then the companies also provide some form of insurance which the riders are not aware often. So this is again something that needs to be brought to notice, that the rider has certain rights, and if those rights are sort of divulged to them, that they have a health insurance or a accident insurance, then it would be appropriate.
So, thank you both for your insights. I think it was interesting that both of you sort of touched upon coordination and how rider safety is very multifaceted. It doesn't just start or end at social security for them. It starts with them being able to actually access these schemes that have been there for them to avail health insurance if they unfortunately get into an accident. It starts at the roads and them having basic access to these facilities. So this is an open question before I open the floor to questions. Apologies for everyone who's, I'm sure they're waiting to ask, but I'm curious, what do you think we as common citizens could do to better help them become more aware of these schemes? And is there something that we could be doing to, you mentioned that there are some gaps in the way that some of these schemes have been thought through or they're being implemented. Is there something that either the delivery riders can do or we can do?
You
It's
want to go,
open.
Prakash?
I thought it's open for everybody, including listeners. So, okay. So, I mean, I feel I think for the consumers, I have mentioned above that, some good behavior. So, what I mean, consumer rightly behave as entitled beings because they are promised to have deliveries on time and uh, etc. I mean, I for example mentioned one incident that happened yesterday night only. When I ordered a dinner, like a Friday payday. So uh, on the restaurant, it was taking time, and when I called the delivery person, he said that he unfortunately met with a minor accident in the sense that his bike stuck in the pothole uh, because of the rain, and the food also fell. He was not sure what to do next. So the now there could be, if I were like, okay, I had the food and I ordered it at 10, and I at 12 noon I'm listening to this. So definitely my dinner plans are spoiled. But should I but having him, making him accountable for this is not fair, right? So it's just an accident is uh, is an incident beyond control. So it's equally beyond control of him and me, and um, so I think to have a little empathy that uh, things are may or may not be you may not be as what to say uh, as entitled to have your services as you may like to, because there are definitely other factors, which is the city life, which is chaotic, which is suffering with less poorly managed infrastructure, etc. uh, so your entitlement is not just in one person's control, for sure. So having that kind of and understanding would help in expecting or behaving fairly with the workers.
I
Uh,
agreed with you, Prakash. The other thing that, you know, in addition to what Prakash said, the empathy element, what we could do, is often probably ask for their welfare when they reach your doorstep. Probably ask whether they want a little bit of water, or not have any grouse if they've come late, because after all is a human activity, right? It takes a lot when it comes to being on the road for 13, 14 hours delivering people's goods. I mean, try living their life a day, one day, and then you can really feel for them, and be more cognizant of the privileges that you are having.
On that very thoughtful and hopefully something that inspires empathy in all of us note, um, I'd like to open the floor to audience questions if anybody has any. Um, I see one from Mr. Sanjay. What are you proposing for the training of riders, insurance, etc.?
I didn't understand the question.
Um, I think Mr. Sanjay is trying to ask what could be done to better train our delivery riders and how to help them get better access to insurance. The awareness aspect, I guess.
So
Maybe from, yeah, various stakeholders.
I think awareness helps. So I mean, one of the ways could be uh, so the having some basic training videos on the application for them to watch as a compulsory thing before during the onboarding process, so that they are aware about the traffic rules and responsible driving, etc. That the accident just not put their life at risk, it's the life of the other on the road as well. uh, and it's important, and maybe it is not as important to deliver on time, but deliver something on time safely. So uh, I think that's what comes to my mind. On the insurance bit is a bit complicated in the sense, I mean, even if you and I sort of go to a hospital and claim for our insurance, we have a TPA sitting at the hospital helping it to some extent. But then you would like to have a TPA from your organization or a company to assist in their services. So something of that sort, which is one point helpline for the entitlements to of the driver would help. Uh, in sort of claiming this. But again, kind of just the way we get the deductions on our insurances, the similar kind of imperfections exist in the insurances elsewhere as well. But I think in terms of accidents, the platform businesses are able to do quite a bit in terms that all the delivery riders have the accidental insurances in place. Some of the claims are the numbers are good, like that's like upwards of like very minimal rejections, etc. So that part is pretty sorted. But with, of course, the imperfection that you and I also feel like, irrespective of what level of awareness we have, they are the systematic frictions.
Other aspect that I just want to highlight is, there is there are road safety funds, and many of these states have a lot of unutilized road safety funds. If I'm not saying that that could be sort of channelized into this particular segment, but using that road safety fund to improve the road conditions, and having some form of accountability that it doesn't. I mean, it's made of quality and it doesn't keep getting uh, impacted by what's happening on a regular basis on our roads. If that can be assured, I think a lot of these funds could be channelized into improving the road safety infrastructure. Yeah.
Thank you both for your answers. If anybody has any more questions, please, we encourage you to type in the chat. But in the meanwhile, a lot of our participants had some questions while registering for the session, actually. So I think this ties into Roshan's answer just now. But it's a general, all-encompassing question. How can we actually get these rules and regulations to be implemented effectively? So I think this was a general question.
So I'll go at that. Most of our road safety policies are very very old. After 2007 Sundar Committee, I think 10, 11, 12 up to 16, you'll have road safety policies which are fairly old, which have not taken into consideration several things. Like if you see the UP road safety policy, doesn't have a road safety cess also, right? So some of these, uh, while you're not wanting to penalize uh, the vehicle owners, the idea here is that you are a largest user of the road, and hence it becomes your moral responsibility to uh, take care while driving. It's also the pedestrians and others who need to have the necessary infrastructure in place for them to cross over, to use the roads effectively. The cyclists, practically now, who cycles? They only cycle to, for recreation or for fitness. They don't cycle to work anymore. But before, in earlier days, you used to have a lot of people cycling. It's not just because of the speed. The speeds are almost the same today. You see the peak hour speeds are at 14, 15 kmph today on most of our roads, especially in Bangalore. So considering this, rethink how we want to use our road space, how we want to use, you know, the uh, the funds that we have effectively, such that more it yields better. That's it. Prakash, you can.
I mean, there are certain uh, things that government may choose. For example, in addition, like one is the unutilized funds, another one is uh, utilizing the funds that are not mentioned how they will be utilized, in the sense like support on social security. Think about a social security fund. Uh, Now, one of the low-hanging fruits to utilize this is that they have something called e-Shram portal, which is like one identity for one worker kind of registration for all over India. Government for a long time has been thinking that uh, for all the workers, there would be some social security attached to this identity of each generated identity. Now that same identity can be used for existing social security benefits, which are four major schemes, which is the PM Jan Arogya Yojana, also known as Ayushman Bharat. Then there are two insurances of Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, and one more for the term like accidental insurance. And lastly, uh, there is this maternity benefit of sort. So there's uh, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, something. And so these four schemes can be linked to that ID. And by virtue of registration, they can get the access to all this. Is something that the government should consider, because for that, like it will be like a convergence of all the social security scheme at one place where workers can be auto-enrolled by virtue of their registration. So something of this sort should be done. Um, so that is one thing that comes to my mind.
Um, Thank you both for your answers. I think we're running a bit short on time, but I'm just going to take maybe one or two more questions. Um, One is from Saurav. Every license renewal is not just an update, but a step towards safer, smarter, and more responsible road use for all. As we have provision for regular updates for drivers' license, can we involve a learning part where the updates come with safety learning and to be aware of latest developments in road safety and rider safety? If yes, why has it not been tried? Um, I believe this is about how the processes for obtaining a driver license has become more stringent. Sort of, if you would like to elaborate. Um,
So I guess stringency in the recent past, they started off giving, you don't need to come to renew your license. If you have a driver license, you don't need to retest or redo a test at times. But I think often we forget that, your rules have also changed a bit. Certain elements have changed. So you need to sort of redo those tests as well. I know it's a cumbersome process, but and in stringency, you need to uh, look at using simulators, having some form of a simulator test, not just the test on the road, and remove the human element. Because I think most people fail or pass also due to corruptions. So, that if you reduce the human element in this, and driver license and obtaining a license could be a task in itself. You yourself seen, in the rules like UAE and other countries, very stringent when it comes to rules when it comes to obtaining a driving license. So
Thank you for that answer. I think this ties into the next question that Rohan has asked. Can that This is directed to Prakash. It's the He said that you mentioned the tussle between the central and state governments who were adopting policies and schemes. This problem isn't just limited to road safety. So, can you think of examples where central and state governments with different ruling parties collaborated effectively for citizen welfare? And how can governments in general collaborate to overcome implementation challenges? I believe this ties into what Roshan also just spoke about.
Yeah, so I think in my opinion, this road safety uh, is relatively clearer in the sense that road infrastructure is generally a state subject. Uh, so state can deal with except for the north and the national highways. Everything else is state, because land is a state subject. So state, there's no tussle at the road safety part. It is tussle with the concurrent subject. So the subject that is being dealt with both center and states. It is labor, for example, where the social security, the context of that discussion is a social security, which is essentially a labor subject, where both center and state make the law. And where they converge is a tough area. So the traditional practice has been that the states, I mean, central government gives a direction or and sometimes law to make for the states to implement in their places. Now, the problem comes when either there is no central law to do that, so state takes up their own measures. For example, there are laws like Shops and Establishment Acts, where all the states have different laws and center doesn't have any guidance on that. Except in they have a model law, but that has never been, notified. So that there is a problem. Now, the examples where it has been a success in case of in case of health, we can see, although it's a state subject, but the Prime Minister Jan Arogya Yojana or Ayushman Bharat has been successfully implemented by most of the states, if not all. Like there are only exceptions. So uh, this, I think, is an example of a good collaboration. GST is an example of a great collaboration. So wherever it's about the finances, I think GST implementation is a great example of a state and central government collaboration. Apart from that, these two, I think what we know more is struggle, uh, unfortunately. But these are two good examples where these two have collaborated well.
Okay, so just one final question before we'll wrap up. It's a weekend, so I wouldn't want to hold anyone up for too long. But Yuvraj was asking yesterday, we were having conversation with some 20 to 30 field executives who use two-wheelers as their mode of transport. And the most common traffic rule they admit to is violating jumping red lights. So I believe a lot of people have questions on rule violations by delivery riders. So what's your take on this, and how could, something that seems like such a small problem but is a large problem at large be solved?
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry if I missed something. Was it for me?
I think it's an open question to either of you. But Yuvraj was saying that they were having a conversation with some 20 to 30 field executives who actually use two-wheelers as the most common mode of transport. And the most common traffic rule they admit to violating is jumping red lights. So this is technically a small part of the larger problem, but what's your take on how, such small problems, well, small in this context, can be solved?
It's primarily enforcement from the traffic police. I guess you can't, and it's also behavioral change that you need to bring in. Now they have very high fines. Yet, if somebody wants to jump and take that risk and challenge the authority, everyone likes to play those games. So what you could do is, you know, have very heavy penalty, such which is already there. But I think 1,000 rupees is too less. Maybe they should make it to a little more, and then I think everyone starts adhering to it. What's interesting in Bangalore, what Bangalore police, or traffic police, has been able to do is, and credit goes to them, at initiating a helmet even for the pillion rider, and that was not, if we see across the country, probably very few cities have been able to implement that very judiciously. uh, so I think somewhere when the enforcement agency comes down with iron hand, it probably helps in uh, making those changes or behavioral changes. But could be anything else. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the incentivization will make that possible. But there is a method to do that. Probably can think about it.
I think there are two examples that comes to my mind. One is the like what Roshan mentioned, heavy penalties. Uh, so I mean, a good example, but heavy penalties also enforced well, because otherwise people would say it's like I'm just being unlucky to get penalized with and while others are like doing well. So a prime example is Singapore, where the penalties are very heavy, so much so that Singapore citizens also say that we are a fine country, like fine being literally well, being a government's tool to governance. So that is one. Another is the utilizing the street light cameras, etc., at least during the uh, peak hours in selected locations for traffic violations. Now, enforcement may not be there for 24/7 all working days, but you need accidents happen during rush hours or the peak hours of these or the higher risk of the accident is during the higher congestion period, which is which you can estimate what the working hours and easy to estimate. So the higher vigilance during that period through cameras, etc., and then activating your traffic rule enforcement better during that time would help, at least thinking what we call as like God is watching what you're doing. So like so government is watching what you're doing during that time, at least would help reducing it just be like a effort with a larger marginal utility of sort. So
Thank you so much for the very interesting answers and the interesting questions from everyone as well. Sorry we couldn't take all of them, but we encourage you to join our future webinars as well to ask more questions and earlier, please, so we can tackle all of them. But yeah, I just wanted to thank both of you, Roshan and Prakash, for the thoughtful analysis and the perspectives you both brought to today's discussion. And thank you everyone for joining in on your Saturday evening and spending time with us here today. I think overall, the insights both Roshan and Prakash have shared really remind us that improving road safety, especially for delivery riders, isn't just one group's responsibility alone. It'll require a larger, more collective effort, and it wouldn't just be, road safety specific, even though it affects road safety. Riders, aggregators, us consumers also at large have a role to play. And at Crashfree, we believe conversations like this are only the starting point. And building on this spirit, we actually launched the Next Mile Road Safety Policy Ideathon, which is a national platform where, after having received over 250 plus submissions, we've selected 37 teams of students and young professionals who are now working on 8 focus policy ideas guided by 16 mentors from leading organizations across various backgrounds, whether that's law, planning, research, and enforcement. Some of whom are attending this session here today. Two of our mentors, Prakash and Roshan, are here with us today, giving you all their wonderful insights. So through this process, we hope to ensure that these ideas don't just remain on paper, and the top 10 teams can translate their ideas into tangible action that will help make our roads safer. Yes, if you'd like to check out our website, I believe one of my team members can link it here as well. Our website also has a previous recording for the first ever webinar we did on the cashless treatment scheme. And it will also have this one for anybody who wants to revisit. But yes, so as we close today's webinar, I'd just like to leave all of you with this thought. The fight for safer roads isn't just abstract or theoretical. I think all of us realize this and all of us see it every day. It's real, and it's so much more than if you just think it's the delivery rider who's rushing to bring us our essentials. It's also about the pedestrians who are crossing the street. It's about the family that's traveling home. And as both Roshan and Prakash have emphasized, I think every life matters. That's something that I hope we all take away from today's session, and that we're able to be a little more empathetic and realize that everything we do matters when it comes to road safety. So together with dialogue, innovation, and leadership, I hope that you'll continue being a part of this journey and help us make India's roads truly crash-free.